Okay.
All right, Slim.
All right. Thank you, and welcome everybody, and welcome to the Portsmouth Coffee Talks Evening Edition. I had to get that right because I'm so used to talking about the morning and trying to get used to saying the evening edition. And I want everyone to know that we're still on in the mornings every Monday morning at 6:30 a.m. on WGPL 1350 a.m. for a half hour, and the rest of the half hour we're on Facebook Live. So, but tonight on our night shows, we're just on Facebook Live, but we do upload this video to our YouTube channel. So we'll be out there forever. So Mark, whatever you say, I know you stand behind everything you say. So whatever you say is going to be out there and with everybody. But before we get started, Colonel, if you want to do your little duty there.
Yes. For those who are out there in electron land, we got to give the disclaimer so we don't go to Facebook jail. But the views said on this show are the host and of our guests, and that is all. It's between us, and so we can continue.
All right. Thank you, Colonel. And again, we're here in Portsmouth Coffee Talks Evening Edition, and we have a special guest with us, the Reverend Dr. Mark M. Whitaker. And welcome, Mark. Good to see you.
Always good to be with you.
Yes, I'm glad you, especially kind of at the last minute, agreed to be our guest here today. So let me introduce first the co-host of the show, Leah Drake Stiff, and Thomas the Colonel Chapman. How you doing, co-host?
Good morning. Good afternoon. It's not morning, is it? Good afternoon.
Good morning. Yeah.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
It's all
anyway,
good.
We'll go to the Colonel if you want to start off with the discussion with Dr. Whitaker.
Well, before the Colonel goes, can I just say one thing, Colonel?
Yeah, go ahead.
I mentioned to Mark earlier that I was especially pleased to see his mother and father on this evening with him. His village is surrounding him today, as well as his wife Ingrid and his sister Etta and Dora Terrell. We're happy to have each of you on tonight, and I'm especially happy to see the bishop, in as much as the bishop and I served on the Portsmouth School Board together. So I had some great times with Bishop Whitaker. And not only that, the Whitaker family and my family go way back. And so I'm especially happy to be here on tonight, to be here with Dr. Mark, as well as with Bishop and Mrs. Whitaker. Welcome to Portsmouth Coffee Talk Evening Edition.
Yes, welcome to you all. Thank you for being
Colonel?
here.
That's
and
perfect.
Those watching Facebook Live as well.
And actually, I'll segue into what you just said on that litany of things you said, and you talked about Dr. Whitaker's family. But it is true that it does take a village to raise a child. And no matter how seasoned you get, Dr. Whitaker, you'll always be their son and their family. And so they're always raising you, giving you the life lessons. So we never get old enough, too old not to learn something new.
That's right.
That and enjoy them while they're here. That's the other piece to that.
Yeah, I'm thankful to have such a loving family, and my father, who will be celebrating his 91st birthday next week.
Blessing.
Oh, congratulations. Happy birthday.
Yeah. And so I'm very thankful to be at this stage in my life and still have both of my parents alive.
Yes. But I guess Slim wants me to go ahead and start. So I guess we were going to talk about the second minority contract study. And then my first question is, what was achieved out of the first study?
The first study, first of all, to give it a context, you have to do disparity studies if you're going to implement a minority contracting program. That's the result of the Croson case, in which the City Council for Richmond, African American majority City Council, put in place a minority contracting program and was sued by a white contractor, Croson. And the court in that case, the outcome of that was that you had to show that there was a statistically significant difference in the utilization of minority contractors versus majority contractors.
Mhm.
And so, very conservative Supreme Court ruling. And so it requires now that if you put in these programs, you have to have them substantiated
Mhm.
a disparity study. Given that it's one thing to do the study, it's one thing to put a program together, it's another thing to enforce. What has happened in Portsmouth is that you may remember when that study was finally done, initially when I was on the school board, it had proposed when I first got on the school board in 2002. At that time, it was a majority white school board.
Mhm.
10 years before we could actually get a study done because the citizens finally woke up and realized they needed to put a more progressive school board together. And so
Mhm.
one of the areas that we attacked was the minority contractor. Got a program put in place, had a third party to enforce. And so at that time, the city decided not to go in with us in that study, which ended up costing the school board more and ends up costing the city more later. And so when I was elected to council and we had Kenny Wright as mayor, both of us being progressive in that line of thinking of getting minority contracts in place, be attacked aggressively, we were able to get a study in place. And we had recommendations for the program to be enforced.
Mhm.
The question you raise is something that the community needs to be aware of, that just because a study is done and you have recommendations in place, you don't have the personnel there that's going to be conscious enough. And see, that's the problem that we're running into, not only here in Portsmouth, but nationwide. And I spoke to, several years ago, I spoke at Hampton University to a group of procurement officers. And in that room, it was majority Black. And I told them that much of the problem that we're facing because when we get Blacks in procurement positions, instead of them enforcing, they become gatekeepers.
Mhm.
Status quo in place. That's why you have not seen the results increase that we should be seeing, because we have the program in place, but we've had Blacks in position who put the study on the shelf. And I'm talking about from the city manager level all the way down to procurement. And so that's why we can't just celebrate when we see African Americans in positions. We need African Americans in positions who are going to be conscious and courageous enough to do the right things. And so nothing has really been done. You will note when in 2016, when the Roe administration came in, very conservative administration, which the Martin Luther King Steering Committee supported Nathan Clark, which was a terrible mistake, and shifted that majority Black city council. That majority white council did nothing to minority contracts. That's no one's fault but ours. And so
Yes.
I know you all invited me on the show to tell it like it is the truth,
Yeah.
because that's the only way I know how to speak to it. So,
Well, you know what? Yes.
so that's where, to answer your question, the first study, nothing was basically done as a result of that. So now, 5 years later, we have to do another study to keep the data up to date so we won't be sued. So now the question is going to be, what
Let me get my plan.
will this be enforced?
Well, you know what? It's a good. You had some great examples of that. What you talked about, and I am one to say, we could study. By my career in the military, they always say we'll put it in staffing or study, and that is one way to say we're not going to do anything. And so that's in the military side, especially for hard things to do. And one of the good things that you said is we have to have like-minded people of color in those procurement jobs to help push things along. Because if you don't have like-minded people there, the institutional racism that does exist and that flourishes in America and has grown, that fire continues. And so they choke us out. They choke us out. So I applaud you for doing the study. And so we want to see, is the study going to be uplifted on online in the city of Portsmouth so general people can look at it for one?
Right, I believe the past study is online, and so
the past one is online.
Right,
the
so
new
once this one is completed, which I believe we just entered into a contract, I was on the search committee for the company, and so this should be in the contract stage right now, and that's public information. I don't see why it wouldn't be, but like I said, what the community needs to be aware of is that need to be adamant in making sure that these things are being enforced, followed, and ask questions. You know, should ask for the data. Shouldn't just be council asking about it, but it impacts our whole community. And
yes.
Our minority companies tend to hire our people, give opportunities. And so, you know, people have become millionaires off of getting government contracts.
Yes.
And have gotten substantial generational wealth. One of the contracts that we broke up was a contract that a law firm that had no Black attorneys had in representing Portsmouth redevelopment and housing for 75 years. See, and what I'm saying, the community be more conscious, and you had African Americans in place who could have addressed that, but it wasn't not addressed. You know,
So let me ask one question, Mark. So you're saying that they're in the process now of finding the company who will do the study?
No, the company has already been selected.
Okay,
Yeah.
and how long generally does it take for them to complete the study?
This one probably would take somewhere, I would say, about 8 months because of the data that I have to get from the city and the legal research that's required. So probably about eight months to complete.
Let me
go ahead, James.
Let me and you're completely right. I remember doing Kenny Wright's administration when the study was sanctioned and voted on by the city council that was in place at that time, and it kind of sat on the shelf. And I've seen many plans that I thought were good on commissions I served on sit on the shelf and nothing being done to it. But for clarification, if a program had been put together right after that first study was done, do you still have to update it every 5 years?
Yes, you have to update the data. So that's why you're seeing the second study done, because you know things change, and so you have to see the results that you can justify maintaining the program.
And with some questions about the difference in the cost. I know it was some time in between and everything is going up, but it seemed like the cost was a little higher than even the rate of inflation.
It was.
And wasn't it the same company that did the study the first time that did it the second time?
Right. Yeah, it was a significant, and that was even lower than some of the other ones.
The others.
Yeah. So there's a cost. There's a cost to discrimination. Of course, we does the right thing, then it becomes a moot issue. But when we keep allowing these patterns of institutional racism to continue and not address it, then there's a cost that has to be paid one way or the other.
Yeah.
So with the study being taking 8 months or something like that to be completed in order to be put in place, what do we do now with the building of the casino that's going on right now, as far as trying to make sure that minority businesses get the opportunity to participate in that construction? Because they're pretty far along now, so but there's still a lot more to go. That
Well, you know, I wasn't in favor. I wasn't in favor of the casino. I don't think that a casino is going to bring the type of jobs that our community needs. I think with the resource of land that we had there, that could have been used. I haven't seen yet where a casino has uplifted a community. Keep talking about jobs, but you know, the slave of the job, the issues. And so as far as minority contracting, the company in the contract, there's no language required. There are no penalties involved. And so that, you know, that's at the negotiation. So whether there's going to be minority involvement or not, I don't know. I mean, on the investment side, even the investment side was weak. I think it was something like 5%. And so I question when you see people putting deals like that together that really don't have the interests of the community at hand from a social perspective, economic perspective. So as far as minority contracting, I doubt it.
I am glad you said that. I have been a staunch critic of how that contract, and it is falling down the road of just like the tunnels, where you had a Republican governor that ran that and ran a company down there in Florida, and we've got to pay these tolls for the next I think it's 48 more years we have to pay. And so they'll be clicking that money and paid for that tunnel 100 times over. And that's one of the worst deals ever. And I think that this casino is going to be one of the worst, the second worst, because you mentioned that 5% equity or up to 5% or $5 million of a $300 million project is no money at all. That's not even that doesn't even let you get into the building, right, into the boardroom with 5 million, you know, versus a 300. Right. And I don't know. And you're talking about truth in lending. Is there somebody or a group of minorities that put in that $5 million?
I have no idea. You know,
yeah.
I don't know how that was done, but even that, I think it comes a point where you're at least negotiate out of dignity. Even if you're gonna do it, they respect you. We have the property. You see, they wanted to come here, you know, and even though I don't agree with it, at least they should have gotten more out of it that would have at least economically benefited Black folks. And what I'm seeing in it, I don't see it.
I am with you. I think it's going to be a net negative on the population, minority populations, because, you know, folks will be that'll have more money going out. The jobs that they're going to create are not going to be ones that are going to be able to support a family, to make you a middle class family. Right. And you may have one head, you know, you're going to have a figurehead here and there, but it's going to be a net negative to our population. And then the other piece to that is the hotel aspect of it. By letting them get away by not building a hotel on the front end, might as well say they'll never build it again, because people come here and they're gambling, and then you're going to go across the river to go stay in the hotel overnight.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense to me to do a contract that has no penalties built in nowhere, nothing. You're just giving away land, you're just giving away stuff. And we're not a rich city. They can afford that kind of stuff. And so basically, I'm saying it was malpractice for those who signed on to this.
Well, like I said, I voted against it, and
Yes.
I was not in agreement with it from the beginning.
Yes.
Concept.
What, Dr. Mark, in light of the fact that it's underway now, do we have any reporting mechanisms to find out if there are minorities involved in the construction, and to what level are they involved?
That's a private development, and so you can request it, but they're self-audited. You know what I'm saying? The information is coming from them.
From them, so.
Right, so they're self-auditing. They're
Right.
giving you, but it's not, that's not a city project. That's a development that's going on.
Yeah.
So it's past, I think the leverage point has already passed.
Yes, it
They
has.
have, the building is going up, and whether they use them or not, it's really no leverage.
Right, right.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a bad deal, and there's no mechanism in the contract to say they self-report. And so that self-reporting is basically they don't have to do anything. So all those goals, if you look on the website, when you look at the minority participation, they said this is a goal to have minority participation of 35%. We have a goal to get this 5% equity or $5 million. It's a goal. And there's nothing to say, or we have a goal to put the hotel there. All that has gone through the wayside.
And see, that was one of the things when we put the program together on the school board side. That was one of the things that made sure was in there, that there were penalties attached to it. Because you even had some companies who were saying that we do our own work, and so therefore we don't hire minorities because we do all our work in-house. We even had to hold them accountable through our policy.
Right.
They had to meet some criteria before.
So Dr. Whitaker, once this study is over, do we have the mechanism to put it in place to implement it, or is this going to end up on the shelf like the last study?
Oh no, it depends on this next election. It depends on who you put in elected positions. The reason why it's set on the shelf after the first study is because of who was elected to council. I listened to, after I had to resign my position from council, I listened to the presentation given by the procurement officer.
I'm sorry, that broke up on me. You said you listened to?
I listened to the presentation that was given by the procurement officer to the city council on the disparity study. And nothing was given of substance, okay? No questions were asked. The only comment that was made by Mayor Rowe was that that was a very professional presentation, for his exact words. No one questioned, okay? And so it depends on this next election, okay? Because I'm hearing rumors on this next election that Mark Huger, who ran the first time, you all know Mark Huger.
Yeah.
I'm hearing rumors that MLK may support him.
And what?
That's what I'm hearing.
That they may support
MLK is going to sponsor him.
Be a disgrace if they did that. It would be the same thing that was done when they endorsed Nathan Clark. Up there made an embarrassment of them. Did not support funding. See, this is what I'm saying. When you ask these kind of questions about what's going to be done, we have the power to make sure that it's done. But instead of us putting people who represent our interests, we let people come into our major political organizations, sorority fraternities, who have never done anything in our community. And we'll endorse them out of some issue of trying to appear racially neutral, which makes no sense.
Doesn't make sense,
Makes
right?
sense, because I can tell you this, when that council shifted and became majority conservative white, they did not fully fund education. They were fighting the superintendent. Okay? You will note this present council, we have now, and we're going to do it again on this budget that will be found approved, fully funded education. What the superintendent requested, superintendent is going to get it, which is a major mover in our community that has high poverty. Okay, and so when that council was on under the Roe administration, they did nothing for minority contract. And if we mess up again and put persons up here who are in the pockets of people who do not have our interests at hand, you're going to see the same results. And there's no need of us complaining about it. If our major political organization endorses it and our community stands behind it, we need to be more politically savvy and look out for our children and our children's children by putting in place things that will have generational impact. And that's why I'm speaking like I am, because when I hear things like that, it's frustrating when we're out here fighting, trying to make a difference, and then we get undercut by putting in persons in power who do not have our interests.
Well, you know what? And you have said a mouthful, and we minorities will sit back at home, don't go to the polls. We give up the only power we have in America, in this great country, is the right to vote, and we sit home. Statewide, we sat at home, and that's why we have a Confederate, what I call a Confederate, as a governor.
Mhm.
And I call him a Confederate because he represents everything the Confederacy did. You know, talks to CRT and all this other stuff. And I call him, if you represent that, you are a racist. I just have to call it out like it is.
Well, wouldn't it be a shame though? We already know we're dealing with voter suppression.
Yes.
We already know we're dealing with an administration that does not have our best interests at heart.
Yes.
Wouldn't it be a shame now if come November,
yes,
major Black political organization, they're assisting with, because when you support persons who do not have our community at heart, you may as well suppress them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, Mark, in a way, are we not also suppressing the vote with the number of people who are deciding to run for 3 seats?
Yeah, I think that once again, we have to look within and look at the politics within our community and ask yourself, why and who and what's going on. And I think that when we look at what is going on, what you're about to happen in Portsmouth is generational wealth. That waterfront, I've said this in the past, that waterfront development is going to represent generational wealth for. And one of the reasons why you saw the attacks against Kenny and myself is because we understood the economics of what the waterfront contracts, and we were fighting to change the landscape. And what I'm saying to you and the communities listening, if we play around with this and do like we have done in the past and putting people in office that do not support our interests, then don't ask about minority contracting and on the waterfront. Don't even discuss that, because we would have given power away, and we have to stop giving power away.
Let me say, Oh, I'm sorry. Let me say right quick that we welcome everyone who is on board here on Zoom with us. But please mute your mic, uh, if you will. We're getting some background noise from some of the people with the open mics, but we surely appreciate you being here. Mark, I'd like to say, I hope your message of what you've been saying gets out to a lot of the people. One of my things have been in the last few years, because I've been members of those groups. Um, uh, and one of my things in the last few years was requesting or asking people to be independent thinkers and critical thinkers when they're thinking about who they're going to vote for, and take their time and do their own homework and make sure, like you said, make sure they are looking at people that will represent their interests. There's nothing wrong with looking out for people that want to look out for people that look like you. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
you can do that and still look out for the whole city, but you know, just take your time, and I hope that message. I want to
Well,
go
well, you
right
know,
back to. Go ahead, Mark.
no, I was gonna say, I think that we need to stop buying into this mentality that if we are trying to make sure our community, which has been neglected, disregarded, and marginalized, that if we're trying to take care of that, then somehow that means that we are ignoring the larger community. It's not a zero-sum game. All of us benefit. And so, it would be the equivalent of us going back against a doctrine. I heard this poor brown-skinned Palestinian Jew say, "What you have done unto the least of these, you've done it also unto me." And so if I'm trying to look out for the least of these, which in our community has been those who are poor, and that's black and white. That's black and white. When we start talking about funding our schools like we should, and putting in that old Northern model where children who have no desire to go to college, who that's not the route they choose to go, we got to at least have in place that old model, because we need uh, electricians, plumbers. Those are worthy positions. And I tell people we're in control of the treasury on the school board side and on the city side. We should be able to get it done and not feel like we have to make some apology to take care of our community. And we're not doing it at the expense of any other community. Because when we fund the schools and those teachers can get pay raises, that's black and white teachers.
Mm-hmm.
When we put in quality career and technical vocational programs, that's black and white children. When we're trying to bring in more community enhancement, that's for all of us. And I make no apologies for looking out for communities that have been neglected.
Yes.
And all of us know, all of us who were born in Portsmouth know that it's not in a level playing field. Like,
Yes.
so that's what I'm pushing for. And I just hope that our community is conscious enough and courageous enough to look at how people have voted and stop this stuff about because that's my soror or frat brother. Now, how do you vote? We got to get beyond personality and start looking at policy.
Right.
But that's what we have to do.
Well,
You know what?
well, Mark, in saying that, how the perception that a lot of people have about the present city council not getting along and doing some things in public that may surprise some people. What is your thoughts on that? What would you say to the people that really feel like it's not enough cohesiveness on the council among the council members?
That we need to grow up and get beyond personality. You think all those Republicans in Congress the comments that they were making about each other and but when it comes down to policy, You see how they vote.
Yeah.
You see how they vote. And that's why I'm saying our people, we need to stop getting caught up in all of this. There's no unity. How do you measure unity? See, that's why I'm waiting for someone to tell me, what is the measure of unity? Because we don't even vote 7-0 on everything. We vote 7-0 on a lot of things, but on some issues we don't. Now, you know, those personality conflicts and things you see up there, that's irrelevant. We get distracted when we start talking about issues about when we don't get along. And I tell people, we weren't voted as a team. We didn't run as a team.
Right.
We run as individual council members. And what we need to be concerned about is how are you voting on policy? See, I used to hear people make comments about Penny, they make comments about me about our attitudes or something, but look at how we vote. We voted on the issues that impact our community.
Right.
See, everybody's not gonna get along, but the bottom line is, how do you vote?
Yeah,
That's what we need.
and one of my main things is so many people are concerned about talking at the end of the meeting and complaining at the end of the meeting, and the issues that y'all are really voting on. You got 3 people that come up there constantly asking questions about issues that y'all are actually voting on. And I always thought that was something that we were missing, not paying attention to what's being voted on. I'm not saying they're not paying attention, but you know, that's what some of the comments. That's where some of the comments should come. Everybody waits for the end of the meeting to make their complaints and expect answers then. But I think it's important. I don't know how you feel about it. I think it's important that we address some of those issues that are actually being voted on in the beginning of the meeting.
Well, many of those issues that come up, I was sharing this with one of the leaders. You got to understand the structure of the government. Council manager. If you think about it, council is about 4 days in the month. Okay, it's the city manager really that is the leader.
Mm-hmm.
We hire this. It's just like on the school board. The school board hires a superintendent to run the school. We hire a city manager to run the city. And so much of that should be addressed at the city manager level. But what you're seeing happening is that you're seeing a mayor who's trying to act like he has executive mayor power. That's not the case in Portsmouth. Okay, Portsmouth is not an executive mayor city. And I think that causes confusion and it sends different messages. When council should speak as one voice, the city manager should speak to many of these issues we're talking about that come up. So that as far as where that comes up during the meeting or after, I think it needs to be one that is consistent, make up of the structure of our government.
You know what? One thing I'd like to say is you talked about, and it reminds me of a quote that I think Martin Luther King, and I'm gonna said, and I'm gonna paraphrase it. He says, "When I put that program out for shop or industrial education, or I put a program out here to improve our educational systems. When I improve the roads, when I do something to improve all society, all people benefit from that." And I'll paraphrase that. And it's just not a black-white thing. Everybody gets a piece of that pie when you improve the system. And so, and I know it is hard to get consensus to get a lot of these issues that you've been talking about, and it is tough. And so I got to applaud you for keep doing what you're doing.
Now, it's interesting you referenced King, and as you know, next week will mark the day of his assassination.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I think about with King and what he struggled with, I think, is something that we're still fighting. On the one hand, in fighting for dignity, fighting for a person to see one's humanity, so that you don't have white water fountains, being called nigger. He found out that just because folks did not appreciate the behavior of a bull Congress, that doesn't mean that they believe in equity. Those are two different things.
Mm-hmm.
And what bothers me is that we have here in Portsmouth an opportunity, because of the power vote that we have, to deal with issues of equity
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of cities can't, because they don't have that political vote.
Right.
And but we have it here to the extent, as I said, we can control both the school board, treasury, and the city. And my thing is, we need to have a perspective of equity in all that we do, and not just trying to deal with this issue of getting along and unity and all. Because, like I said, I don't know how to measure that. We're getting ready to celebrate the resurrection of Christ here. Okay? Jesus could not even unify all of his people. And so I think you have to take what you have and move forward with it with all the courage and strength you can when it's the right thing that you're doing. I think equity, justice, fairness, I think those are the right things. And we have to make sure that we put people in place who are not running the ball for folks who don't have our interests.
Yeah. And the other thing to that is you have to do it while you're in power, while you have the chance to do it, because it can be turned over real quick. And I look at our national election in 22 in November, the Confederates could be back in charge again. And our democracy will be back when Mr. Trump was in charge. And so we have to, while you still have consolidated power, is get as much done as you can, because it is, democracy and power and the chance to do the right thing is not there forever. It's only there for that period of time that you can affect. Now,
that's why I said this November is going to be critical.
You got it now.
Yeah. That's why I said this November will be critical.
Yes.
Because, for example, that minority contact study you're talking about, that's going to go beyond this present council.
Excuse me, Ms. Green. Ms. Green, can you mute I'll mute you. Let me mute you. Okay. All right. I'm sorry, Ma.
That's all right. Yeah. So you're right. We have to, but like I said, this next election is going to be critical.
Yeah.
Mark, are there any other things going on that the council is proposing to enhance the life for the citizens of Portsmouth? I mean, we're hearing about the casino. We're hearing about this 820 concert. I don't know if that's going to be an enhancement, because you're getting feelings from both sides in reference to that. But is there anything going on by the council that will enhance the lives of the people of Portsmouth? Any plans in place?
Well, as you know, the ARPA funding that has come down from the federal government. Portsmouth received something like $56 million, and we have already allocated the first half of that. And I am pleased that council has put in place policies whereby persons will be getting some direct payments. We have put in place policies where the homeless shelter going to be expanded. That was one of the things I brought up on council, that we need to look at the mental health issues and have something like a one-stop shop where we can provide mental counseling, employment, housing. And so I'm pleased that I think something like 6 million or 5 million or 6 million of that going towards the expansion and addressing the issues of the homeless population.
When do they propose? They're supposed to break ground for a homeless shelter. Am I correct?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure when that date is. I know that in the process of getting the plans, the drawings, all that together. I'm not sure that exact groundbreaking date, but that is.
And Mark, have y'all made any decisions about the jail and the waterfront?
No, and actually, as you noticed, there was an unsolicited bid. I don't know if you heard about that.
I did.
But yeah, there was, and my perspective on that is and this was my perspective when I was on the council the first time, when there was an unsolicited bid, that a project of that magnitude needs as much transparency, and it needs to be an open process. Not need to go through an unsolicited bid. I would like to see something on the level that we just saw Norfolk do. You know, the project at Military Circle, they're looking to, I don't know if you saw it, but they had the developers to come and make a presentation. They had I think it was 3 developers that came and made an open presentation. And I would love to see us do something on that level than trying to do something through an unsolicited bid process, which also can have some issues of minority contracting in it when it goes through that process. So I would like I think it should be as open. Like I said, that's a generational wealth project. You see, and that shouldn't be something that the community is not aware of who the developer is. Who are you contracting? Who are you subcontracting? What's good? You see, those things should be open to scrutiny and question. Yeah. So that should be something that is coming before us. Once again, who you have on council, because it was no coincidence. It was no coincidence that unsolicited bid the first time I came on council. No coincidence that it came on when that council shifted the road. Okay, and you had the majority conservative. That was no coincidence.
Yes, would they try to run it through? But you know, anytime you have an unsolicited bid, it smells. It's a dead fish.
Right. So it's what we want to do. It's what we want.
And getting back to the casino project, also there are other things that's being done in Cavalier Manor, such as building of new homes. Am I correct? And what other projects do they have focusing around that casino that will take place in the Cavalier Manor area?
You mean that the city is involved in?
Yes.
Well, I know that there has been, as far as recreational improvements and enhancements, and also there are some proposals that we had asked for some months ago about a plan for a recreational facility. But as far as the homes, I'm not
Would there
sure.
be any displacement of homeowners there?
Can you be a little more specific?
You know, usually when you get something of that magnitude coming in, then eventually they want to branch out. Then eventually you have the raising of the community, where they move people out, in order to have these other projects to come into place.
Right. I see. You're talking about some of the effects of and some other.
Right.
I don't know. But once again, that depends on who you have
on council. Yeah.
How those things are handled. You see, because you can remember there was talk one time of putting a waste dump in Cavalier Mountain.
Yes.
All right. Now they can call it what they want, and they can try to say that it wasn't going to happen. But I know what Dr. Pat said to us in a closed meeting. Okay. It wasn't like it was some speculation. Okay? And you will remember Kenny Wright and I put it out there in the open. Okay? I had a meeting at New Bethel to let the community know. Okay? Now, if you had a different council up there, I would suspect that would have gone. Okay? Because we already know around the country that those type of environmental racism issues are present in our community.
Right.
See, so it's not like it's some type of novel concept. They've been doing it in our community. Okay? And so it matters what we have up there. And like I said, it can't be an issue of being offending people and unity and all that. Let's make sure we have people who vote for our interests.
Yes, yes.
Dr. Whitaker, when is the city manager doing her presentation for the budget?
Actually, the format was followed from last year. In the past, what you're speaking to is when there was an actual presentation
virtually
in council chamber. It wasn't even done virtually. It was just posted on the city website, and we were delivered individual copies of the budget. And so there's going to be, I believe, in April, some public hearings on the budget, but it's posted on the website right now for citizens.
Okay, it's so important, and we'll try to get those dates out here because I always try to advocate for people to jump on that early so they can know what's going on. And you can't go through it line by line item, but there are some issues in there that might directly affect your community or you. And we need to know about that because once it gets into that public hearing stage, it's a short window between that time and the time that you all have to act by law. It's you have to act by a certain time. So if people miss out on those opportunities to public hearing opportunities, next thing you know, some things might pass you by, and then you see some things happening in your neighborhood, and you wonder how that happened. So,
and we're going to be having individual meetings with the city manager and the chief financial officer, one-on-one meetings. Those would be pretty beneficial. So if citizens have any particular concern or something that they want, feel free to let me know, and I'll be glad to raise those issues. We have also what's called a capital improvement plan. Okay, that's for major facilities, and one of the things that we have been pushing is for Norcom Field to be upgraded to standard where
you get an applause for me for that one, Mark. Get an applause for me.
Yeah. So one of the things is putting a turf on the field.
Good.
I believe it calls for the other high schools as well, so that we can use the field for other regional events and other activities that can go on there. And also, I believe it calls for expanding the track as well. Can attract in some of the AAU districts, that thing that people and parents really get behind.
And before you leave that, James, just 1 minute. As far as, has there been any talks about vocational education programs?
Yes.
Because we have TCC right down the road that have the welding, carpentry. It has everything in that building on Airline Boulevard.
Right, but the thing about TCC, which they do, is that you have to be qualified. You have to be qualified to be admitted into TCC. So that covers those students who are admitted and pass the admissions and tests and all. But then you have those students that don't pass, and so you have to have that for both.
So we're looking for something for those who may not pass the admission process.
Right. So
and do we know where we're looking at this project?
Yes, there's been some discussion of some buildings that are presently under the school supervision that are not in use that could be readapted. But once again, I've raised the issue. We have control over the city budget and the school budget.
Mhm.
I think we could get that done.
Yes, yes.
See what I'm saying?
And we
Yeah.
are at a crucial state in Portsmouth now that we need to do something for these kids to engage them.
Because when you start talking about poverty and crime, you have to look at putting in place some things that address why people are in the conditions that they're in. And I think the education tool is something that we definitely need. And you can remember under the old IC Norcom model, those trades were learned without going to a community college.
Exactly.
Right, so you didn't have to, go to a community, get accepted into a community college to get it. It was part of the high school curriculum. That's what we hope we can really bring that back to capture those students.
Well, I'm happy to hear that.
I like the fact
I'd
that
see
you
that happen.
bring up the. Go ahead, Colonel.
I'd love to see that happen. I look at my own family. My wife went through the LPN program at Norcom High School. And here it is 30, 40 years later, she's went through that LPN program, went to ODU, got her baccalaureate, picked up another master's and actually 2 masters. And now she's OBGYN nurse practitioner doing that thing. But she got her start way back there in voc ed.
That's
and
right.
So we have all this youth now that can do that from that, and do it at less expense than coming out here and doing other things. In some of these for-profit schools that are out here that's just killing our youth.
Right. Something we're looking.
Yeah, so it's something that needs to be looked at and something that to be executed. And when I say executed, is to move on with it.
And like I said, the community needs to voice and stay on top of it.
Yes.
Yeah. Hold us accountable.
Yes.
Because it's too late to talk about it after it's over.
Yeah.
Talk about it before it begins. That's for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, Dr. Whitaker, I like the fact that you talk about addressing crime holistically and, from many different facets. Because a lot of people look at one thing, we got to have more police. So of course we do. But, a lot of the crime we're having is linked to a lot of things that are deep rooted. And I think it was a lot of talk about, helping these community activists and groups that are out there on the ground trying to address crime because some of them have been in those positions. How is that going? As far as the city funding groups like that, is it to the point where it's organized enough where we know where that money is going and seeing any results from it?
There was a report that was given to us, and it shows about $243,000 have been expensed general fund. So $243,000 has come from the general fund, and then there's a grant. That the sheriff's department, police department, there have been some groups that have been funded through that as well. Now, as far as the measurement for how effective that has been, I'm not sure if there's a measure of how much of an impact it has made. I do know the funds have been expended to the different groups.
And one last thing, well, from me, the co-host might have some other questions. The fund balance that it's talked about a lot about the percentage, how much the percentage should be that the council sets. Explain for for those, and sometimes I'm confused about it. Explain that fund balance and where we should be, where the city should be as far as how much percentage they should be over what the
Yeah.
actual funds are
Well,
in that.
well, there are different fund balances that the city has, like the public utility fund, the golf fund, and there are some policies in place that those cannot extend a certain percentage of your general fund, and so I think that's what you're referring
Well,
to.
yeah, more like the general fund of the city and how much, you have the regulators that look at a certain thing when they come and do their reports in the city. They look for a certain
For the bond,
percentage.
you're talking about for bond hearings, James?
Yeah, for the bond hearings, they look for certain percentages that the city has in reserve per se.
Right, and I know that the past audit that was done, that we came through with a clean record. Mimi Terry, who is the chief financial officer, that's her area that she handles and makes sure that, and from all indications from credit rating and also the audits, those things are in order.
Yeah, the reason I asked that is it fair to refer to Portsmouth as a cash-strapped city?
Um, I don't know what it means when it says cash strap. I know that for a lot of for a number of years you hear that, but what I found out is that generally what we need to do, the money is there. It's just where are we willing to put it? And I found it to be true when I was on the school board. I remember when I brought up middle school athletics, and they said, it was expensive. And by the time it came out with what the budget was, it really wasn't a whole lot of money. And we were able to put it in place. One of the greatest parental involvement pieces, I think, that the school had, all those parents there with the children at the games. So I think it's more of what, the budget reflects the desire of those that are in control. So when we say it's cash strapped, well, cash strapped where and for what? And a lot of times when you start bringing up programs that social programs are going to uplift, that's when you start hearing all this cash strapped. But when these contractors are out here doing work and they turn in these change orders, they find the money to pay them. And so I think it's a matter of what we have the will to do.
And one question, Mark, someone just kind of alluded to it on Facebook Live, but what about the blighted buildings downtown Portsmouth?
As far as,
is there going to be some improvement as a facelift for downtown Portsmouth?
Well, again, those are privately owned buildings. You have code enforcement. I agree. And so when you get into, persons owning private property, you can't just go in and just take it. And I agree that there does need to be definitely facelifting done. Now, as far as some type of city incentive funds to help with that, that may be something to examine, but those are
at least get them to adhere to the codes.
right.
Yeah.
Right. So that becomes an enforcement.
But you know what?
Go ahead, Colonel.
Well, I like to, before we go too far off, you talked about, Slim talked about the word cash strapped. And I always go back to say and you've already talked about it. It's about the priorities of the citizens in the city council and those who are in leadership. What do we want to do? Because there's money out there to get us out there. But then for those who are against those priorities, then the word cash strap comes out, especially amongst the Confederates out there that are want to slow down progress or stop progress to go from there. And so we have to be careful on how we articulate when we say cash strap. But the city of Portsmouth, what are the bonds rated at now that we sell?
If I remember if I'm correct, at our last meeting, I thought the CFO said it's a AA rating.
AA, okay.
Yeah, I believe. Oh, I believe she said AA.
Okay.
Yeah, but the city is in a strong position from the credit rating. Like I said, it's just a matter of us having the will to put the funds in the priority areas that need to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I brought that up because sometimes our citizens can be our worst enemy. Making comments like that. We're cash strapped. It's a broke city. It's a poor city. Nothing's happening here, and we just need to be able to control the narrative or tell the truth or be as transparent as possible. Not everything is great, but not everything is bad. So,
And our people need to be very careful about jumping out here making comments about how bad the city is, because what you do, and actually, if you think of it from an economic perspective, those who are in power, you don't hear them coming down making those kind of statements because they're buying up everything. And so when you make statements that really aren't supported, you're just going off of emotion, you're actually supporting those in power. You're now devaluing the property. It allows for them to come in and buy it up. And so we need to be very careful. Portsmouth is a jewel. I think we need to make sure put the right people in leadership who are going to look out for the best interests of the jewel and recognize the humanity of all of us and stop this thing where it's just a certain group that's benefiting, profiting, but we need to make sure we're uplifting and make no apologies.
And,
Well
and
said. Well
there was
said.
there was one statement here on Facebook about the murder rate in Portsmouth and the crime that's going on. And the person wanted to know, are there going to be any buyback amnesty programs, or did they miss it?
I haven't heard. I don't know what the chief of police, what they have in mind. But I think the studies will show that those programs really don't sustain.
They don't. Yeah.
Yeah, it might have a short term, but it doesn't stop gun production.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
You see, and so
And really, and when you think about it, the people who need to sell the guns back are not going to be the ones who want to sell the guns.
Yeah. I think that this, like Dr. King said it. He said this country is one of the greatest purveyors of violence. This whole culture of violence, even that we're seeing globally. You're talking a lot about what's happening in Ukraine, while at the same time the U.S. is involved in bombing in Somalia. So it's this culture of violence that has been here since the founding of this country. And so what we're seeing, and then you have these lax gun control laws, but on our side, what we have to recognize that we have to deal with this crime on a multi-pronged level. We got to deal with social programs dealing with that address poverty, mental illness. I was speaking on the Carlos Howard film, I think it was Monday, and I mentioned that poverty, we received report from the former public health director. I think his name was Chung. He ended up going out to San Francisco, I believe. He mentioned how poverty creates stress and how stress impacts on brain development. And so much, see, I say our community has been neglected in so many ways, because when the opioid crisis broke out in the white community, that was addressed as a health issue. Okay, you saw that addressed differently.
That's true.
Ours was addressed criminally, the war on crime. You hear a war on opioid. You didn't hear war on opioid, but it was a war on crime versus approaching it from a health perspective. See, and I think you need that, but at the same time, like I said on call, that you're gonna have to lock up. There are some that are gonna have to be.
Definitely so.
There, you see, but it can't be that that's the sole focus, because everyone you hear coming down to council, all they keep talking about is hiring more police. And you know, the police respond to crime; they don't get crime. See, and so
Already happened.
I think we have to make sure, like funding education and social programs to help those that are in need, and trying to make sure we're addressing the humanity of it. And it's not going to happen overnight, because the problem then just occurred overnight.
Right.
It's not a, there are no quick answers to those kind of multifaceted questions.
No, but I think one thing we do need is that we have to be transparent, public. And one of the things that has bothered me, and I think it has caused some confusion in the community why people are asking what's happening, because it has been this appearance that there's this significant federal involvement, federal rollout, and that's not what has been actually happening. And there are some federal things that can be done, and we need to make sure they're done, but we shouldn't present this picture to the public as if this is what is happening. And so I think we have to be transparent with how we're approaching it.
Dr. Whitaker, and as far as this is a topic of discussion a lot as well, and since you are an assistant pastor of a church, people talk about the role of the church as far in our communities in dealing with some of the issues that we have. Do you think the roles of the church or the churches are doing enough or doing what they should, or if they even should be doing so much as the people think they should?
I think the church, now when I speak of the church, I'm talking about the church that we profess. And that's why I mentioned earlier this brown-skinned, poor Palestinian Jew that we call Jesus, the Christ, who was so much of a threat that they had to crucify. Okay, he was a threat because the Roman Empire, which was oppressing his people, he was speaking out against Caesar, talking about he's the light, that he has power. And he wasn't doing it in the sanctuary. And they did not crucify him because he was having praise service, handing out turkey dinners. That's no threat to the empire. Matter of fact, the empire wants you to do that because if you're doing it, then the empire doesn't have to use this money to pay for the turkey. All right. The church needs to be more social justice minded and speak out on the issue. It's interesting now that Dr. King, who I said his assassination, we're gonna be talking about that. You gotta remember now that Portsmouth is a city where Dr. King was not readily accepted. My father was in the movement. Okay? And at that time, when Dr. King and the Poor People's Campaign, you had Ralph Reeves, Ralph Reeves, who was pastor of Grove. Okay? You had my father here in Portsmouth. You had Milton Reed in Norfolk, and John Alexander in Norfolk and Knoxville.
Yes.
Okay, right. Many of the old preachers were saying King wasn't even called by God. That there was a contract out on him. Okay, and I just want to let you know that mentality is still here in Portsmouth. It's still here in Portsmouth, and I know it is because when the attack occurred against me, okay, there was a deafening silence. There was a deafening silence because we allow, for those of us who speak truth, we allow that to happen. Okay? And so when you say what the churches should be doing, the churches should be more vocal. And not just, and we can't hide behind our tax exempt because you can speak anytime as an individual. Okay, and so the churches need to be in the forefront and not in the forefront trying to talk about all this stuff about unity and coming together. See, that's a distraction. Okay? But what policies? I'm you know, Reverend William Barber with the Poor People's Campaign.
Yes.
Barber is speaking on those issues. It's policy that has caused institutional racism. Whether you like me or not, and your bigotry, that's not what's oppressing me. It's your policies that are in place. The church has to speak to that. And must do it boldly and cannot be stuttering and cannot be trying to appease both sides. Because as I said before, Jesus couldn't even unify the Pharisees because truth, when truth comes in, it has to be divisive. Truth has to divide because you have those that will not follow.
Right.
And we can't be ashamed of standing on the truth because I heard the truth will set you free.
Amen.
And so I'm just saying that we, and I love the church. I love the clergy. I love the brothers and sisters, but we have to be more vocal and not compromising ourselves based on whether we can get a grant, not compromising ourselves whether this bank is going to give us something. We got to stand boldly and profoundly. And I think that's the role of the church to make a difference. I believe we can do it if we represent the Christ we say we're following. I'm not talking about the Billy Graham and Joel Osteen, about that poor Palestinian. That's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Well, you know, Pastor, I wanted to end on that because you were a pastor before you were a counselor. So, and I want to end on that. But we always give our guests last words, and I think you did it. But if you have something to add to that, pertaining to what we've been talking about tonight, to sort of wrap it up to the people, to the audience tonight, please do so.
Yeah, I just once again want to thank you for inviting me here tonight. It was a good Thursday evening to share with you all on a nice rainy evening here. To thank those that do participate in making sure that our city is taken care of. And as I said, feel free to share any comments and concerns with me. I work at the service of people, and so I'm always available. And I just want to once again thank my parents who are up here, sharing, listening, And my family, I see my sister, my sister Anna, my brother Phil. I see he's in Cleveland right now.
Oh,
And,
okay.
yeah, he may be with my aunt and cousins up there right now. And my wife Ingrid, who's been a pillar by my side, and our children who are away in school, except Rachel, she's at Norcom.
Where is she? Where is she?
Say it again. Say it real loud. Say it loud.
The Mustangs felt y'all needed some help. So
Well,
Oh,
Norcom educated 3 of your finest.
that's right.
Yes,
I
yes,
agree.
yes.
I agree. And my mother.
And your mother, that's right. So
And my grandmother-in-law.
that's right. So you got a long legacy at Norcom. So I don't want to hear anything about Manor, okay?
Yeah. And then my New Bethel, I know
Yes.
that New Bethel has stood by us and have been faithful. And it's been a sperm foundation. And thank God for them and what they have meant to us and the love they've shown over the years. And like I said, I hope that what we have shared today will open up more of our people, and that we are aware this upcoming election has some major ramifications. So anytime you need me to come back on, I'm glad to do that. Even though I don't drink coffee, I still come.
Yeah, I got my coffee cup, but I got Coke in here.
It's a nice cup. It's a nice cup. Yeah.
And 6 o'clock a.m. is not too early for you, right?
Oh no, we're early birds.
No, he's done that before.
Yeah, we're early birds. Yeah.
But we really appreciate you, Mark, being here and speaking truth to power. We knew you were going to come here and tell it like it is, and that's what the people need to hear.
yes.
The people that want to contact you through your city council email, I guess it's simple. Could you give that out to people?
Yeah,
so
the city
I have
council.
questions.
Yeah, my city council email is Whitaker M at portsmouthva.gov. And let me I don't know it by memory, but I think I have my also cell phone. Yeah. Or they can call on my city council cell phone. That's 757-754-3172. What they call the clerk's office, the message passes white, double white. Goes on to
Yeah, and I encourage you, citizens, to call the councilmen. They represent you, whether you voted for them or not. They represent you, and call them with your concerns. A lot of people call me and ask me things. I say, well, call your representative. That's who you voted for, and that's who's in place to take care of your interests and take care of your needs, or answer your questions, or guide you where you should go to get the answers you need to get. So, and Mark, also look on Leah's page. A lot of people made comments. A few people made comments, and you might want to read some of those comments and that they made, questions they might have on there. So when you get the
okay.
opportunity, read her page.
Okay.
And
Some people.
wait, James, did you finish?
I'm finished. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you, sir, very much. But I must tell you one thing. I was so happy to see your parents on here. I was hoping I was going to hear some words of wisdom from your father.
You know,
Come on.
now my mother, I see her phone up. She knows how to. What you're seeing is their laptop and the technology of trying to unmute
Right.
that. They're not at that level, but my mother can unmute her phone.
Yeah.
Leah,
I
can you
wish that she
unmute?
could, because I had some wonderful times serving on the school board with your father. And
Okay.
believe me, he kept things alive.
Oh yeah.
He kept us in order at all times. So I just love Bishop Whitaker. So, and I love your mom.
Oh yeah.
So very much. And your auntie. So,
Yeah.
but I just want to say thank you. Thank you to the Whitaker family for coming on to join him on this evening. Thank you for the church family for coming on this morning. Miss Green, good friend, Miss Green. So
Yeah,
happy to see Miss Ernestine Green on here.
She's
But
a
once
warrior.
again, I just want to say thank you so very much. We went well beyond the hour, but it was well worth us going beyond that hour.
Yes.
And so a lot of good information was given, and prayerfully the citizens will listen, and that they will develop whatever questions they have. And instead of talking to each other, come to the source and find out from the source what's going on. So I want once again to say thank you so very much for being here with us this evening.
And let me just say this to Colonel Chapman, his brother, Michael,
Yes.
was at Virginia Tech before I was there,
Mhm.
but he set a standard and example there. And I didn't realize the connection was maybe one of the shows.
One of the shows we did.
But as many times I've seen it, I didn't realize that they were brothers.
Yes.
But give him my regard. He may remember, he was well ahead of me, but I remember him because he plays Alpha there at Virginia Tech.
Yes. And I'll talk to him tomorrow.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna give him my regards.
And he's still out there trying to recruit minority students to
Yeah.
be interested in engineering
Yeah.
at Tech and Norfolk State. So
Yeah.
he's a Tech and HBCU recruiter. So
Yeah.
I'm proud of him too. My cousin.
Yeah. Are y'all cousins?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
cousins.
okay.
Now you know.
But anyway,
Yeah. Okay.
we appreciate you. Mark, we will have you back because it's always good conversation, and hope we can get your mom and your dad on, because that's one of the things we want to do with the evening shows that we have here. We started out with Coach Horace Savage, who was 96.
He'd be
And the next week
97 July 1st.
Wow.
Henry Fears was 96 as well.
He'll be 97 July 22nd.
Who was that?
Right.
Mr. Fears.
The band director at Norcom and Manor High School, Norfolk State. So, and we just want to make sure that people know who these people are and hear about their experiences that they had way before we had them, and how much difference it made for us for what they did in the past. So, so hopefully we can get your parents scheduled to come up here too
and let me know. I get
conversation with us.
Let me know. I get them hooked up there.
That sounds good. That sounds real good.
All right.
Okay, we're going to end, and I want to thank everybody for listening, and thank for the people that are here on Zoom with us, as well as the people who are watching on Facebook Live. And share this information and tell anybody who didn't see it that tomorrow they'll be able to see it. We're going to upload it on our YouTube channel. So, if you want to go back and watch it, that's a good place to do it. But if you do go there, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, and then share. We appreciate that. We're trying to build our presence on the YouTube channel and make sure that what we do here goes further than Portsmouth, Virginia.
All right.
So thanks again. And
thank you.
Portsmouth Coffee Talk is here for our voice,
our community,
in our future.
And thank you. Thank you, everybody, and God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. Have a great evening.
Take care, Mark.
All right. Take care now.
Mark.
All right. Take care.
Dust off your tennis shoes, man. That's the challenge.
Always a challenge, but never the action.
Oh, we're not going to play. Just dust them off.
Just dust them off. That's why I said always the challenge, but never the action.
That's right. That's right.
It'll shock you one day and the action won't come.
And I'm going to be right there with the camera, believe me. Okay, everybody. Have a great evening.
All right. See y'all later.
And be safe. Be safe.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.